Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Humble Huz. I'm so happy you're here. We are making this cute bucket hat. I love it. It has now become one of my favorites, and that's what I say with every project that I do. No, really, I love this hat. I think it looks so fun for the summer, and in most of the world, it's summertime now. So let me show you how to make this bucket hat and what you need for it. Just as a sizing reference, this hat is for a size 2 to 3-year-old. So my daughter, she's 20 months old, but she wears clothing size 2 to 3, sometimes even 3 to 4 because she's just very tall. And her head circumference is almost 20 inches. I hope that gives you an idea. As we go along, I will tell you where to stop. I have gone ahead and done very broad sizing for this bucket hat. So there's only 3 different sizes: the 0 to 12 months, the 12 to 24 months, and then the 2 to 3-year-old. Number 1 is because I always take sizing with a grain of salt. Everybody's head is so different. All babies are different. And this is a style that kind of grows with you if it's a little bit bigger. So don't worry about that. And I will let you know as we go along in the video where to stop for the different sizes. Now, these are usually my basics that I always have on hand. Some scissors, measuring tape, yarn needle, stitch markers. You will only need one for this project. If you don't have stitch markers, you can always use a paper clip, but just be very careful because of the type of yarn that we're using, okay? And the hook that I'll be using today is a 3.75 millimeter or size F. The yarn for this project, the one that I bought, was this Knit and Crochet Raffia yarn. It is 100% cellulose rayon. It's 99 yards or 1.41 ounces or 90 meters, which is 40 grams. The recommended hook size is a 5 millimeter, so completely different than what I'm going to use. I just didn't like how it turned out with this, with the recommended hook size. So you can try out whichever hook you want to use, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I think that the 3.75 millimeter that I'm using gives you a tight knit. This is a medium 4 weight, and this yarn you have to hand wash and dry flat. This isn't the best raffia yarn that I've used, but it works pretty well, and it was on sale, so I bought lots and lots of it. The colors for this specific one that I'm going to make are the pink LT and pink DK. Once you decide which one your main color is going to be, you will need, for this specific size, you will need 2 skeins of that color and 1 of the other one. But it's always good to have extra just in case, because also your crochet is going to be different than mine. You know, some have a tighter crochet and some crochet a little bit more loose. My main color is going to be this darker pink or hot pink, if you will. So I'm going to start with this one. And we need to create a magic ring. Now those can give you a headache, yes, I know, but I will try to show you how to make it, and hopefully you'll succeed with the first try. And there's different ways to make it, so if the way I'm showing you isn't the easiest one for you, then you're always welcome to Google and perhaps find a different way to do it. The loose end, so put your hand out, the palm of your hand, that loose end has to look towards you, has to be down here, and take your 2 fingers, your middle and your index finger. Then you're going to cross the yarn like this, put your thumb on it, hold it. Now you're going to take your hook, go under this side right here where your index finger is, then grab a hold of this, the yarn that leads to the skein, pull that one through, twist it at the same time. Okay, now carefully you're going to have to get a hold of that same yarn again, go under it, kind of twist and pull it through that loop that you just made, and pull it through. Okay, now you can take out your fingers, but don't pull on anything because you want this magic ring to stay. You can always pull this out. But this first chain that we did does not count. We need to do 8 single crochets into the ring. I will show you. So you hold on to that ring, then you insert your hook, you yarn over, twist and pull it through the ring. You will have 2 loops on your hook, then yarn over, twist and pull through both of those loops. Okay, this is your first single crochet, and this is where we need our stitch marker now. So I am going to put it through these 2 loops. See that? Now we need to continue to work into the ring, then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. That's your second single crochet. Continue, and yes, you are working over your magic ring and this loose end of your yarn. Okay, then again, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and with this raffia yarn, you're going to have to pull up a little bit more than with maybe your other yarn. It feels like it gets stuck. So just try to work as evenly as you can. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now continue until you have 8 of these. And I hope that you have a lot of patience for this project, because you're going to have to switch back and forth quite a bit between the 2 colors. And yes, your yarn is going to be a little messy. It's going to tangle a little bit. So just maintain calm and it will all work out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 single crochets. This is where you want to pull on this loose end so that you can close this ring. There you go. After you are done with this round, you will take your second color and you have to make a knot, just a simple knot somewhere here. So just leave some of the yarn like that, and then where your knot is, you will kind of hold it against your work. So from the back, hold it, and we are going to work this into our second row. So we start So hold, this is the loose end, you know, from that first color, so color A, and then second one. So this is what your hand position should look like. I know. Into this stitch where we have the stitch marker, we will work a slip stitch. You insert your hook through those two loops and these two yarns. You're going to go through all of that, and then you're going to grab a hold of your color A, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the one that is on your hook. So that is a slip stitch. You see, now we have this pink, so the light pink one, the color B, is worked into that stitch. And that's why we have that knot, so that it sort of holds there and doesn't slip through. Okay, after that slip stitch, you will yarn over and chain one. And you can now take off your stitch marker. Into that same stitch where the stitch marker was, we will work one increase. So one increase means 2 single crochets into that same stitch. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now I can add my stitch marker here into these. Let me put it up close so you can see where. So through those loops right there, that's that first single crochet. There goes my stitch marker. Now I do another single crochet into that same stitch, and that is my first increase. So now I have 2 single crochets in that first stitch, and you see how I'm working the color B. I'm just basically running it along, so I'm not actually using it yet for round 2, but I want it to be there already when I start the 3rd round. Now you go into the next stitch, through those loops, run these yarns along, and do your next increase, which is the 2 single crochets into that same stitch. Since we have 8 single crochets from round 1, for round 2 you will have 16 single crochets. I have now done 15 single crochets. So I've done 1 increase into each stitch, but on this very last one, where I still need to do my stitch number 16, I am going to start my stitch as usual, where I insert my hook, I yarn over, I pull up a loop, and now I have 2 loops on my hook. But now I am going to drop color A, and I'm going to take a hold of color B, and I will finish this stitch with color B. For round number 3, we need to slip stitch into this stitch where the stitch marker is. So I'm going to go into the stitch where the stitch marker is. Make sure to take color A and run it along. You don't want to leave it here on the side. Then with color B, you're going to yarn over, pull through, and pull through the one that is on your hook, so that is your slip stitch. Now you will chain one and take out your stitch marker. You will do your first increase into that same stitch. So don't forget to take color A along, so the dark pink. So insert your hook, so run it along, so, like, don't leave it behind your hook, so always run it along. Then you will do your first single crochet like that. Add your stitch marker and then do your second single crochet, but do not finish this second single crochet with this color. So just yarn over and pull up your loop, then drop that light color or color B, take up color A, so the dark pink, yarn over and finish this second stitch with this color. Into that next stitch you will do one single crochet, but do not finish it off with the same color. This is where you need to switch again to the light color and finish that stitch. There's only going to be one single crochet in that second stitch. Now into the next stitch we will do an increase again. So you start the first single crochet and you finish it as usual, but then the second single crochet you have to switch the color again before you finish it off. So here's that second one, then you switch to finish off that stitch, like so. Then you go into the next stitch, which is not an increase. You insert your hook. Remember to always run the second yarn along, okay? I can't stress that enough. Then yarn over, pull up a loop, and finish off with color B. Like that. So as you can see, this is where your yarn starts to get, tangled, but don't worry, you can take care of that after you're done with this round. Now your next stitch will be one increase again. So you start the first stitch as usual, the first single crochet, finish that off, but the second one you finish off with color A. So as you can tell, the pattern is one increase, one single crochet, one increase, one single crochet, but you just have to make sure that you switch colors at the correct moment. So when you do the single crochet, you have to switch colors before you finish that off, and then when you do the increase, you have to switch colors on the second single crochet. And yes, it is going to be confusing. You're going to forget to switch colors. That's okay, just go back and make sure you switch that color at the correct moment. You should have 24 single crochets at the end of this round. So your last stitch on this round 3 will be that single crochet, and you finish off with color B. It should look like this. Okay, now this is the time that you can take to untangle your yarn, and all I do is I just loop it around. So now you have those 24 single crochets. For round 4, okay, make sure you have your color A always on hand. Go into the stitch with the stitch marker. Make sure you put this color A on top of it. Then do your slip stitch with color B, so the light pink, like that, to close off this round. Now chain 1. We can now take off the stitch marker. And the reason why we switch off the colors that way is because we want a clean look, like a clean transition between the colors. Now go into that same stitch and do your increase. So 1 single crochet, add your stitch marker, and then that second one, remember to switch the color. Like that. Now into the next 2 stitches we will work single crochets only. There will be no increases. So insert your hook, and yes, I know this is the light colored one, but you are doing it correctly. So with that first one, you don't need to do anything. Then you go into that second stitch and you start your single crochet and finish off with color B. Okay, now your next stitch is going to be another increase. So go into there, do your first single crochet with color B. Then you go into the same stitch once again, but you finish it off with color A. I told you this was going to be this was going to be challenging with all the switching and where and when. But that's why I'm here, to guide you. There. Then that next stitch, we will work 1 single crochet, and don't forget, run your yarn along. So do a single crochet, then into the next stitch you do another single crochet, but you finish it off with color B. So as you can see, the pattern is increase, 2 single crochets, increase, 2 single crochets. Next is our increase again. Start with color B and you finish it off with color A. Okay, do you think you can continue doing this 4th round? Just don't forget to switch the colors at the correct moment. So you're going to switch it at the end of your first increase, and then you're going to switch it after that second single crochet. You will have 32 single crochet stitches at the end of this round. I have now finished round number 4, and my last stitch I switched. So my last, at the end of this round, so you have the increase and then you have one single crochet into one stitch and then another single crochet into that next stitch. You finished off with color B. Now we join where our stitch marker is. Insert your hook. Remember to take color A along and then slip stitch with color B, chain 1, take out your stitch marker, and into that same stitch right there, you will do one increase. So remember, you start with one single crochet, add your stitch marker, and then you start that next single crochet, but you finish it off with color A. So there's that increase, the 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And this is for round number 5. Now into the next stitch, you do 1 single crochet with color A. Then you go into the next stitch and do another single crochet with color A as well. And then you go into the next stitch and you start the single crochet, but you finish that with color B. Like that. Then we have another increase coming. So go into that next stitch, start the first one with color B, and then the next one into that same stitch. You start with the color B, but finish with color A. So yes, this pattern is going to be 1 increase and then 3 single crochets. 1 increase and then 3 single crochets. So you switch color at the end of the first increase, and then you switch colors at the end of that 3rd single crochet. At the end of this round, you will have a total of 40 single crochets. So as you keep doing this round, this is going to kind of curl in, and that's okay. And on the other side, when you turn it around, it all looks like a mishmash. But this is going to be the inside of the hat. Even though it's turning this way, eventually we're going to turn it around. So don't worry about that. Just continue doing this round. Be patient. And make sure you switch colors at the correct time. This is still the same thing for all the sizes. Remember that I will let you know when to stop for the different size. For round number 6, so we will join with, after I switch colors with the color B, remember to take the yarn along, do our slip stitch, chain 1, take out my stitch marker, and do my first increase into that same stitch. So one single crochet, add my stitch marker, and then my second one in there. I start off with color B and finish with color A. Okay, then into the next 4 stitches, we will do single crochets with color A, but the fourth one we will finish off with color B. So right here, switch, and I do color B, and then into the next stitch I do my increase. So one, and then on that second one I do the switch again. Then I continue with my 4 single crochets into the next 4 stitches, and on that fourth one we will switch to color B. So right here, I switch, and now I do my increase again. Okay, so this round number 6 is 1 increase and then 4 single crochets. 1 increase, 4 single crochets. Don't forget to take your yarn along, the one that you're not using, and obviously don't forget to switch colors at the correct time, or stitch I should say. Now at the end of this round number 6, you're going to have 48 single crochets in total. Okay, this is the end of round number 6. Now we continue on to round number 7. Let me just detangle this. So let's do a slip stitch with color B. Let's chain 1. Now we take off our stitch marker and do our increase. So 1, and if you would have forgotten to take along the yarns, you would see them on this side. So that's how you always know. Always make sure to take them along. Now we switch colors. I'm pretty sure you're getting the hang of this by now. So after our increase, we will single crochet into the next 5 stitches. And then on that 5th one is where we will switch colors. And then we do another increase. So 4 and then 5. Switch my color. Finish that off and do my increase into that next stitch. So yes, for this round it will be 1 increase, 5 single crochets. 1 increase, 5 single crochets. And then you continue until you finish this round, and you will have a total of 56 single crochets. Start with your increase and then continue with 6 single crochets into the next 6 stitches, and that is going to be the pattern for this round. We will do 1 increase, then 6 single crochets. 1 increase, 6 single crochets. At the end of this round, you're going to have 64 single crochets. on to round number 9. So remember that if you were doing the size 0 to 12 months, you stop here. And fast forward to round number 11. So now for this round 9, we do our slip stitch, chain 1, take off our stitch marker, and do our first increase. Now if you are doing size 12 to 24 months, you are going to stop after this round 9 and then meet me at round number 11. So we did our increase. Now we are going to do 7 single crochets into the next 7 stitches. Okay, so the pattern will be 1 increase, 7 single crochets, 1 increase, 7 single crochets. Don't forget to take your yarn along, and also don't forget to switch at the right time. So after your 7th stitch, now we switch. See how that rhymes? There. And now comes my increase again. So at the end of this round number 9, you are going to have a total of 72 single crochets. Now on to round number 10. This is going to be the last round. So remember, if you were doing size 12 to 24 months, this is where you stop. But for size 2 to 3 years, we still need to do this round. And you start again with your slip stitch, and then you do your first increase right there, and then you continue with 8 single crochets. So that is going to be the pattern for this last round for size 2 to 3 years. 1 increase, 8 single crochets, 1 increase, 8 single crochets. At the end of this round, round number 10, you should have a total of 80 single crochets. Just don't forget, as usual, to switch the colors at the right spot and to take your yarn along. Okay guys, so this is where you're meeting me if you did, so whether you're doing size 0 to 12, 12 to 24, or 2 to 3 years. This is at the end of round 10 for the size 2 to 3 years. Obviously for the other ones it's a different number of round, but you're going to do the same thing. So let's slip stitch as usual into our stitch marker and then chain 1. So for the size 2 to 3 years, this is going to be round number 11. Now there's going to be no increases in the next several rounds. We're going to take out our stitch marker. We are going to start our first single crochet, but we're going to switch colors already here at this part. So you switch to color A, add your stitch marker, and then go into the next stitch and single crochet as usual. We want to single crochet into the next 8 stitches. For the other sizes, it's obviously into the next 7 stitches or into the next 6 stitches. Okay, because you have less stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and here's number 8 for the other sizes. Obviously, you just have to make sure that the color B is 1 stitch away. So that you have to make sure that there's 1 stitch between the color B and the color that you're on right now. That is where you need to switch. Okay, before you finish this single crochet, you need to switch into color B and then single crochet in here with your color B. Finish that off and then go into the next stitch, which is color B. Start your single crochet, but do not finish it off with that color. Instead, switch to color A. So what we're doing is that we're moving the stitches towards this side. That is why they don't line up. So into the next colored stitch, you will just continue counting once again your 8 single crochets, and then on that 8th stitch, for the other sizes, remember it's a different number of stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then on that 8th one, see there's 1 stitch between color B and color A, and this is where I switch my colors. So if you were doing the size 0 to 12 month, you would be doing this on stitch number 6, and if you're doing the size 12 to 24 months, you would be doing this on stitch number 7. Start that new single crochet, then go into the next stitch, start it, but switch back the color A, so that you have those 2 stitches right there. Moving the stitches. Was that very confusing? I hope not, and I hope that your row or your round looks just like mine, where the stitches have they look like they moved 1 over. So I am at the end of this round 11 for the size 2 to 3, and I did my 8 single crochets. I switched my color. Now into this last stitch right here, I am going to finish with color B. Do my single crochet. This is where it gets even more confusing, okay, for this next round. So slip stitch into that stitch as usual. Bring it over. Now the chain 1 is going to happen with color A. I know that does not make sense. Now take out your stitch marker and do that very first single crochet into the same stitch with color A. Like that. So these first rounds, like I said, they just don't make sense. Really, it's not intuitive, but we are practically going to use that slip stitch chain 1 as if, in quotations, as if this was our second color of the bee. Okay, it's just for this, like I said, these first rows, and you will do that in all the sizes. Then continue doing your 8 single crochets, or whatever number that you have for your size, and you will move up once again. So you always have to have one stitch in between. So I'm coming into this 8th one. I'm going to change to the color B, and there's that stitch between color B and color A right there. That's how I know that I need to switch. Then you do your color B, and then the next stitch the same, but remember to switch colors on this second stitch. And then continue and do the single crochets that your size calls for. So see how now this one moved up once again. Another way to make sure that you have the correct pattern is by counting your stitches. So you have to have, if you're doing the size 2 to 3, you have to have 80. If you're doing the other sizes, like the size 0 to 12 months, you have to have 64 stitches, and if you're doing the size 12 to 24 months, you need to have 72 stitches. And of course, no increases in this round either. I am at the end of round number 12 for my size, and I switched my color here, and I have 2 stitches still left to go, and that is where that color B is going to take its place. So I do that. That second one is where I switch my color back, and now I slip stitch to the other side with color A, and I chain 1, take out my stitch marker, and single crochet into that same stitch. And now, so you see, once again, you can see how they're moving, how they're curving. That color B is curving. This is now round number 13 for this size 2 to 3 years. Okay, so this is where you might get confused because you cannot count 8 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in this round, that's exactly where I meant what I meant, that it just gets confusing and it doesn't make sense, as like way before I had 8, but now I have 7 again. So here, this round, once again, we count that chain 1 space. We count that chain 1 as our stitch. So as long as you are making sure to switch your color here, which I didn't do, before you so that you always have one stitch in between color A and color B, and you remember to move that stitch forward. So I'm glad I caught it, because I was like, yeah, there's one. These first couple of rows are a little tricky. So then you continue, and this is going to happen to you in any of the sizes where you're like, wait, I don't have enough stitches, what did I do wrong? So, but now when you get to that second part, so after the stitch marker, when you get to the second part, you're going to have the right number of stitches. So there should be 8 for me right here. So 1, oh wait, this is where I switch. It's so easy to forget to switch the color. So there's 1 stitch in between, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on that 8th one is where I switch my color, just like in the other rows, or rounds I should say. Yeah, so once again, in this round, do not go crazy because you're like, I don't have my usual 6, 7, or 8 stitches here. What's happening? I did something wrong here. No. It is simply to get this look of moving the stitches up. Okay, I am at the end of round number 13. I'm going to do those 2 single crochets in color B. And then that last stitch of this round will be back in color A. So there. Now I go back to the, well, now I go to the other side and do my slip stitch as usual. So, chain 1, take out my stitch marker, and single crochet into that stitch, and I continue just like in the rounds before, where I have to. So now the best way to do it is that you don't count these stitches beforehand. Instead, just make sure that right before, so that you have 1 stitch before color B where you're going to switch colors. Otherwise you might get confused. So right there, there's a stitch in between color B and color A, and that is where I need to make that switch. Once again, the best way to make sure that you're doing this correctly is that you have 80 single crochets before you get back to the stitch marker, and obviously for the other sizes, your number of stitches. And make sure that the pink, so the color B, is always 1 stitch ahead of the one from the previous row. Here I am at the end. I just did those last 2 stitches in color B, and now I have my last 2 stitches of this round in color A. Now on to round 15. So slip stitch, chain 1, and single crochet into that same stitch. So, and of course, once again, I made sure that I had 80 single crochets for my size, for this size of 2 to 3 years. And now I start, and like I mentioned before, I don't even count anymore from my stitch marker. I just make sure that when I'm about to reach color B and I am going one stitch before, that's when I switch my color to bring color B up front. So we will continue doing the same thing where we need to move up the stitches for rounds. So this is round 15, and then we need to do round 16, because then we will start with increases again. Of course, for the other sizes, you are doing something different. Okay, I do want to mention that sometimes it will look as if you still have a stitch right here to go into, where this is actually just the connection. That is why it's good to be counting your stitches along. Okay, because you might add an extra stitch without intending to, just because it looks like that's a stitch that you still need to go into. Because it might feel like, oh, it's too far, you know, like to get to the stitch marker. I'm sure that's an extra stitch, but no, sometimes they will just look like that, but they're not. It's just that connection point. I will meet you at the end of round 16, so when we start round 17, we will do the increases there. So here we are. This is the end of round number 16 for the size 2 to 3-year-old. And now you are going to really not do a lot different than what you've been doing so far. You just simply have to add one increase to each of these sections. So the ones in the color A is where you will add one increase. So let me show you. So I just started this round number 17, and you can do, so for this section right here, you can do the increase either on this side or on this side. It doesn't matter. Okay, as long as you have it in this section before the end of the round. But I'm going to do the increase right here into this next stitch. So there, I add one increase. And then I continue as usual with moving up my stitches. Okay, for each round. Remember, you always want to see how it's moving. So even though you have that increase, you still need to move those stitches. So this round 17, do not forget to add one increase to each of these sections of the color A, and you can do it at any point in the section. So for example, right here, I can add that increase. Maybe you'll decide to do, you know, once you switch colors, then maybe every third on each section, you can do an increase, which means that by the end of this round, you're going to have 88 single crochets. Now, obviously for the other sizes, I will write it out, how many single crochets you will have. When you are done with this round, we are going to continue with the same rounds as before, where there are no increases, but you need to move up the stitches. So in rounds 18 to round 21, you are going to have a total of 88 single crochets in every round. Just please don't forget to move up that color B by one stitch. Okay, and there will be no increases in those rounds. Rounds 18 to 21 will have no increases. So I will meet you at the end of round 21. Okay guys, here I am at the end of round 20, and so usually you would have switched to the color B right here, okay, because you have the 2 stitches on color B and then you're supposed to have one in between, right, before you switch the color. But we are not going to switch the color here yet because this is where we join the rounds, and we don't want it to look like we have 3 single crochets of color B. So you slip stitch, and now when you chain 1, that's when you change to color B. And then you do your single crochet with color B as usual. Add your stitch marker. Do that second single crochet and finish that off. Then continue with round 21 as usual. See, so it looks like you move the stitch forward and it doesn't look like you have 3. So if we would have done that here at the beginning, it would have looked like you have 3 single crochets in the color B. So it's something similar like what we did at the beginning of the body of the hat. And listen, if your joining does not happen to look like mine, or it looks like you have 3 stitches instead of 2 of color B, especially in the other sizes, like if it's just, I mean, it's hard to explain, so it might be just confusing if you're trying to follow. I understand that. Do not worry, like, it's not the end of the world, seriously. If the back part of the hat has a little bit more of the color B, like, you know, just go with that. Just do not get a headache over this, please. Just as long, like I said, as long as you have the correct amount of stitches, you'll be fine. Now I am almost at the end of round number 21, and I will do my last 2 single crochets in the same color, even though we are close to the end to joining the round. So because that joining point is going to look like a stitch, all we need to do is on this last stitch switch the color to color B. Now we're going to do our slip stitch in that color B, chain 1 in that color B, and then do our single crochet in that color B. Of course, at the end of that single crochet, you will switch back to color A. So this looks like it's 2 single crochets. So you get that look. All right, and now continue with color A. So you have a clean line right here. Now for round 22, we need to do increases again. So in every section of color A, you are going to add 1 increase. That means at the end of round number 22, and for the other sizes, I will let you know your round. So at the end of this round for size 2 to 3 years old, you're going to have 96 single crochets. So this is where I did my increase, and now I continue with my usual single crochets. Alright, I am at the end of round number 22, so I am on my second to last stitch, and I want to switch my color right here because that last stitch of this round is going to be in color B. So I switch it right here. Now I go into that next stitch and do color B. Then I join with a slip stitch also in color B, but my chain 1 is going to be in color A again. Okay, now I take out my stitch marker and do my single crochet and continue as usual with color A, so that these look like there's 2. Okay, it's again that same kind of like tricky situation of where to switch the yarn, but you will do just fine. So now this is round number 23, and I'm just going to do my usual. There will be no increases. And the same for round number 24 and 25. So I will meet you probably here towards the end, just so I can show you how to do the joining here. Alright, now I am almost at the end of round 23. I have 2 stitches to go. So before that, I will switch to color B and then do my usual 2 stitches in that color B. So then switch colors right before, so at the end of that second single crochet. Now I'm going to close off this round or join this round with color A, chain 1, oops, and single crochet as usual. Now just continue with round 24 and round 25. You should have no trouble joining here because now you are out of this area with the color B. I will meet you towards the end of round 25 so that you can then proceed with the inversion of colors. I am at the end of round number 25 and I am going to finish off my last stitch, but what you need to do now is in that last single crochet that you do, you have to switch to color B, like that. Now you will join and do a slip stitch with color B and then chain 1 with color B still, single crochet 1, add your stitch marker, then continue to do your single crochets with color B, but there's a catch. We have to do increases in this round as well. So this being round number 26, you will do your increase in any of the sections. Okay, still in these color A sections, which is now going to be color B. So there's my increase for that little section. Then I continue. That means you're going to have 104 single crochets at the end of this round. And now when you get to these stitches before the color changes, you just inverse it. So here I'm going to start with color B, then I am going to finish this stitch with color A, then my next stitch, because remember that we want to move them, we want to keep moving them, you do your first single crochet with color A, and then the second one as well. Now switch back, and then you continue with color B. So this is what it will look like now. There's that inversion. Don't forget to do your increases in each of these sections. And then I will meet you towards the end of this round. So just be mindful of where you need to switch the color. So right here, I need to switch. Now that I am here at the end of round number 26, as you can see, I am just going to join with a slip stitch with the color B, chain 1 and single crochet. And there you can, there's a smoother transition here now. So for round number 27 and 28, we are going to do no increases, just the regular stitches, the single crochet stitches, and of course you're going to move up the colors, continue to move them up. So when you get to this part right here, this is where you do the same as always, but with the colors, well, or the yarn I should say, basically inversed. Okay, so you're going to continue that for those two rounds, and then round number 29, you are going to add one increase in every section. That will give you a total of 116 single crochets. And then for round 30, which is our last round, you are going to slip stitch the whole round. So when you get to your stitch marker, you're going to slip stitch, take out the stitch marker, so do not chain one on round 30, and then continue with slip stitches all around until you get back. Okay, I just wanted to quickly show you at the end, that last round, it is all slip stitches like I mentioned before. Go into every stitch. That's all there is to it. by the way, so the last round is only done with color B. You simply let color A hang and then we'll cut it off at the end, but you're not using it for that last round. Once you're done and you've gone around, you cut off the two ends, you cut off the two yarns, take out your stitch marker, and then pull that yarn through that last loop that you have on your hook and tighten that. You can make a knot here if you want with these two. Now take your yarn needle. Remember, this is still, so this is going to be the inside of the hat where you have these loose ends. Now you're going to thread them in. Once you're done with your hat, once you're done with your hat, definitely stretch it out, you know, so that it fits well around your child's head. Just put your hand inside and just kind of stretch it to the sides. And that is it. You are done with your Maxi bucket hat. I bet you did wonderful colors. Thank you for being here. I know it's a very tedious project, but so worth it. They're gonna wear this during the summer. It will keep them protected from the sun, and it's just such a fun accessory for your little one. I hope to see you next time here on my channel, Humble House. Bye!